every time you do this.
Oh man, that's incredible.
It's my Halloween costume.
That's pretty great.
Thing.
That's pretty great. Welcome to another edition of the Bulluminati Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Bond. Joined alongside me, as always, Robert Steeg and Bruce Wayne / Seth Varnadore / the Batman.
That's right. I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. So, guys.
Steeg, have you ever seen a Batman movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Surprisingly.
Which ones have you seen?
The Dark Knights, basically all of them.
So you've seen Batman Begins,
Yes.
Ra's al Ghul, Liam Neeson.
You're saying words, and I don't know if they're English or not.
I mean, they're definitely. I mean, Ra's al Ghul maybe is. I mean, it's definitely English, but
I'm also. I know this is going to come as a shocker, but for how bad I am with movies, I'm also equally as terrible of like celebrity names and matching names to faces. So let me do my quick 20-second research on his face, and I'll get back to you.
You don't know who Liam Neeson is?
Oh no, I know Liam Neeson. There's like I could probably count on fingers and toes the amount of celebrities that if you say their name, I know exactly who they are. And
He's
then
one of them?
everything else is he's one of them.
Is it because he was in that Seth MacFarlane movie? The
Sausage Party?
No, that's Seth Rogen.
1,000 Ways to Die in the West. That one.
1,000 Ways to Die in the West. Nothing.
No.
See, I haven't seen that one. I'm with
I walked out of that. So Samantha and I there's only so much we can talk about tonight, so we're gonna milk this a little bit. I'll be honest.
Oh God, I wasn't prepared for you guys to shit on me for.
What are you guys going for Halloween? We got a family costume. I'm Batman. We got a Catwoman. We got a Robin. We got Poison Ivy and Batgirl. So
okay,
we got a family costume. What are you guys?
That's not bad. So last year we went as so Olivia was Cinderella last year. Samantha was the fairy godmother, and then I was Gus, and Brody was the other one, the tall one,
the other mouse.
Yeah. Coincidentally, this week is Spirit Week at my work, so I actually wore the fairy godmother costume to work.
Was it a hit?
It was. It was a mega hit. It was a mega hit. Definitely went over well. I think Olivia's like the miraculous ladybug or something like that.
Oh yeah, I know Ladybug.
I think
Brody Cat Noir.
Samantha's going to be Cat Noir. Brody is going to be Rex from Toy Story.
Okay.
And then I don't know what I'm going to be yet. Oh no, that's for Friday. So Friday night, this is self-serving. I think I told you guys this yesterday. I'm going to do the cutout with my head like on a cardboard, and then it's just going to be my Twitter profile with a verified check mark because I'm verified on Twitter, unlike Steve.
Yes,
I'm gonna get there eventually.
We'll see.
Maybe. Why not? It's my damn Simon and Garfunkel DMCA from 4 years ago.
Yeah, probably. Definitely that. So we had the bye week. What did you guys do over the weekend? Did you do anything fun that didn't involve football or putting yourself through pain?
Yes.
Well,
I had a adventureful Saturday, fellas. Let me tell you something. By the way, Halloween costume. We're going as Bob's Burgers.
Okay.
So Bob and Linda. Except
Got it.
Paige is going to be Bob, and I'm going to be Linda. Do you see the joke? Do you see the funny?
But you've got the mustache.
That's Seth. Nothing gets past you.
You're wasting a perfectly good mustache there.
The last 3 years I did mustache-oriented costumes, so I thought, hey, it'd be funny if Paige did it. Yeah.
There you go. Okay, I get it. It's all coming together.
Piece by piece, it's all making a perfect picture. We had a full fucking Saturday. Let me tell you something. We had a little wedding party down in Brandon for one of my best friends from college. So messed around and won some Disney trivia.
Nice.
No surprises there. Actually, to some people that might be a surprise. So got that out of the way. And then that evening we did a zipline adventure over in Oldsmar. There's like a sunset like zip line ropes course at at just like this random side street kind of thing, but it was like a legit thing. Like it had like 5 or 6 zip lines that are like 300-foot zip lines that are like 70 feet in the air. So it was pretty badass. And lo and behold, in Oldsmar, Florida, I got recognized by someone, and I mentioned it to you guys in Slack.
It's the wildest thing, isn't it?
It really is. And to be fair, I think between having the mustache and also doing this live show, which allows people to see my gorgeous mug, I was also wearing a USF shirt. So it's kind of like, who is this mustachioed individual who is wearing a USF shirt? It's like 5 of us. So I ran into Kevin White, who is on the OG 97 team. Out in Oldsmar. So that was a pretty neat interaction. So if you're watching or listening, Kevin, it was fantastic meeting you. You scared the shit out of me because I did not expect someone to yell out Steeg in the middle of
I didn't know.
Right. Like I was not prepared to meet people. Like at a football game, that's one thing. About to zip line 70 feet in the air, I was not prepared for that.
You don't want people screaming your name, Steeg, as you're about to go down a zip line. Like, oh my God, Steeg, you're not connected.
We met some of Paige's friends for dinner that night. So it was a nice Saturday. I'm going to be completely honest. I watched 35 seconds of college football on Saturday. When we were walking into the restaurant, the Penn State Minnesota game was on. And I walked by, I was like, oh, what's happening? It was like 5 minutes out of clips. It was still 0-0. And I was like, cool. And then I moved on with my life. It was wonderful.
Seth, what about yourself?
Well, I watch the games, but we had dance studio for my kids had their Halloween party, so we went to that on Saturday, and then we had a train trip at Pumpkin Patch Express on Sunday for the kids. So that was the time. And that's pretty much it. That's kind of the 2 big things of the weekend. Still got to watch some college football on Saturday though. So all in all, a much busier weekend than normal, and I actually have to work games. So
yeah, I watched some football. Recovered from COVID. I'm feeling a lot better than I was. But didn't really do much. Kind of stayed in the house, low key. Just drank plenty of fluids, drank plenty of water, had some soup that was nice. Samantha made this homemade like chicken broth soup that was actually pretty good. Just kind of laid low. It was fun. Had some weird ass COVID dreams. I put one on Twitter that was just insane. Olivia at age 5 was actually a high school quarterback prospect. I'm at a lake house. In the hot tub, her right hand falls off, and I'm like, Liv, you got to put your hand back on. We got to go practice. Hand's frozen stiff, so obviously I put the frozen hand in my mouth to thaw it, and then Olivia turns into former Michigan quarterback Denard Robinson, and then Jeff Scott calls me to recruit Denard Robinson / Olivia. So that was one strange ass COVID dream. Did you guys ever experience that? COVID related hallucinogens?
No.
I'm built different. Haven't had COVID.
Really?
Built different.
Built different here. Built different.
It's the mustache.
My neighbor and his wife, they just got
COVID catcher
for the first time in 2.5 years, and it wiped him out a little bit. But on to better things, I guess. Let's actually get into let's talk some football. Your 1-6 USF Bulls, 0-3 in AAC play, travel to Houston on Saturday to face the Cougars, who are 4-3, 2-1 in the American. Games at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central Time. I know there are going to be some people out there. Games on ESPN2. Houston leads the series 6-2. They've won the last 6 games. They've put up 50 points in their last 3 games against USF. The last USF win, George Bush was in office. They beat the Cougars 32-14. Marquell Blackwell threw for 305 yards, threw for 2 touchdowns, rushed for 3 touchdowns, also punted 1 time for 33 yards. But that's not even the story of the game. USF's defense picked off Houston quarterback Nick Eddy 7 times in that game.
Not so steady Eddie, huh?
No, not even close. So that was the last time. That was 2002, November 23rd, 2002. Last time USF beats Houston. And I don't want to give too much away, but I don't think it's going to happen this week. Initial thoughts, and we'll kind of dig in deeper. Houston's 4-3, pretty up and down, but their 3 losses are against halfway decent teams. Seth, what have you seen from Houston? It seems like, I mean, there were some player fights. They were kind of they've run the gamut, and they've only played 7 games so far.
Yeah, so going back and looking through their season, we talked about them a little bit last night on Next Level on VSN Suncoast every Wednesday at 7. We talked about them a little bit, and going back and looking at their schedule, it's not quite as bad. I think initially the people turned sour on them just because they were playing a lot of close games at the beginning of the year, but their losses are to Texas Tech, who's not terrible, especially when they're healthy at quarterback. Texas Tech went on the road and just thrashed West Virginia last week. Then they lost to Kansas, who turns out Kansas has a pretty good offense and was kind of maybe a little bit better than people expected at the time. So at the time, thinking, oh, lost to Kansas, these guys are terrible. Kansas turned out pretty good. And their other losses to Tulane in overtime. So it's not like they've lost to the dregs of society here. They've lost to some pretty good teams. I think they're still disappointing. But, you know, that game, they probably should have lost to Memphis as well, kind of pulled that one out of nowhere. And that maybe got them back on track here, turned the season around for them a little bit. They're still a really talented team. They just were having some issues earlier, kind of putting it all together. I think maybe sometimes a game like that Memphis game where you come back and you kind of steal one after probably it going the other way on you all year, that might be something a catalyst for them pushing them forward a little bit. Mm-hmm. So probably catching them at a bad time. You would have liked to call them a couple weeks ago,
right?
As opposed to now. So
we were like them before the Memphis game, and then they got a bye week, and then kind of handily put away Navy last week. Last 2 games on the road, they're finally at home. First time in like close to a month for them, honestly. And you know, Clayton Tune looks like the guy we all thought he was going to be. Completing 65% of his throws, 1,800 yards, 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and then Tank Dell's doing Tank Dell stuff. 51 catches, 627 yards, 8 touchdowns. No one else has 20 receptions on that team. It is literally Tank Dell or bust for this Houston offense, at least in the passing game. Running the ball, not as great. Their defense is a little suspect. Navy put up 20, and Navy's a pretty unconventional team. Steeg, what do you see USF being able to do without Gary Bohannon, who, by all accounts, I think we can agree here, he was really starting to find his groove the last 9.5 quarters that he really played, going back to Cincinnati. Tulane was pretty good, and now he's out for the season. What can you see Trey Marsh being able to do against this Houston defense, who gives up chunk plays? They're not great on third down, 44% on third down defense. What do you see from USF that they can maybe take advantage of this week?
Side note before I get into that, I was very distracted. USF men's soccer just upset number 14 Charlotte, so that was pretty cool. They scored with 2 seconds left.
I saw that.
So I was infatuated by this absolute butter goal that USF just scored to win this game. But realistically, the game plan doesn't really change too terribly much when you're changing hands from Gary Bohannon to Travis Marsh. I think you kind of are now a little bit more limited in your QB run game, but realistically, the way that Travis Trickett was getting Gary Bohannon involved wasn't like extravagantly, difficult QB run plays. Like it's a lot of misdirection. It's a lot of curtain calls and a lot of, showing a certain play that you may have ran earlier in the year, kind of divvying it out in a different way. And I think we can all point back to that, that touchdown pass that Gary had with Jimmy Horn against Tulane as a prime example of how Travis Trickett's offense has just been priming itself more and more as the year goes on. And, we can beat this drum till we're all blue in the face. Phenomenal hire. I mean, the guy is literally doing wonders with this USF offense right now. But again, I don't think the offense is going to change too terribly much. You're still going to be a run-first offense. You do bring something a little bit different with Trey back there, at least a different arm. Really, we'll know what the game plan is for Travis and for Jeff, within the first scripted plays, the first 10 plays there. I won't be surprised if that first play is, play action to Brian Battie and then let it loose in the slot to Jimmy Horn with, Trey's got a big arm. I'm sure they're going to be kind of itching for a big confidence builder on the first play. And we kind of joked about it last night. We think that, if Jeff Scott gets the opportunity, they're going to take that ball first against Houston to really try to set the tempo for better or for worse in the first play here.
Yeah, and I would think that even though it's not Marsh's specialty, even with that, I would think that just the quarterback run game is going to be a little bit limited anyways, just because you're already on your second string quarterback. Are you really going to risk another quarterback in the run game? So that may be limited, even if that was more of a strength of his anyways. One positive thing for USF on the offensive side of the ball is that Houston is 95th in the country in terms of 20-plus yard plays given up. So they give up a lot of explosive plays. So kind of, towards the bottom of the country in terms of that. They've given up, I think, 38 of those. So 38 plays over 20 yards, 18 over 30 yards, which may be even worse than 95th. Yeah, it's 106. So they give up some chunk plays. So if you can get Marsh playing kind of in the system, which he did at times against Tulane, he made some throws in that game. He also had a costly turnover, but he made some pretty good throws in that game and played all right.
Right.
So if you can kind of get him comfortable, he had 2 weeks to kind of get a game plan together and get a chance to study it and look at it. And hopefully that's enough to kind of be able to see the plan for 2 weeks and then go out and execute it in the game.
Yeah. And to that point, so Trace was kind of banged up. He was dealing with some concussion protocols, but he's back. He's playing. He's taking all the first team reps. At least this week, maybe Sunday, Tuesday, and then the rest of the week. So it could have been real bad for USF if they were forced to play a game last week. I think you may have seen Byron Brown maybe a lot sooner than one maybe have hoped or expected when you come into the season. But he should be back. The thing that's always been the issue with Trey Marsh, I'm not telling any secrets here. He is what you would call a practice player for all intents and purposes. Everything that we hear from practice, spring practice, everything is like, this guy has got it. He's figured it out. He's got the cannon. He makes all the throws. And then when he gets into the game, he is a turnover machine, like absolute turnover machine. And I would wager Colin's life on if Trey Marsh has started a game, he's had at least one turnover, and I would set the over-under at 1.5 in each game he's played and or started. That's just been his issue throughout his entire USF career. Cincinnati in 2020, ECU last season, basically iced the game on the pick six, had the turnover or I guess 2 weeks ago now versus Tulane. That's always been his issue. If he can clean it up, complete a few more passes, it kind of opens up the offense a little bit. I would like to see him hit Jimmy Horn deep like you hit Daquan Stanley.
Right.
That'd be a fun, wrinkle to the offense that we haven't really seen this season.
Yeah.
And-
Of note about Houston is, and it'll be interesting to see kind of what you get back health wise in the running back room. In particular, they're pretty poor at giving up explosive runs. They're 119th in the country in 20+ yard runs allowed. So hey, they're tied with USF. So not great defensively against the run. At least they give up some chunks at times. So maybe if this is a game you rely on your run game a little bit more, kind of goose it a little bit with play action and some RPO stuff, make it easy on Trey Marsh, lean on the run game a little bit, especially if you get some of those guys back healthy. Hopefully Kelly Joyner can play a little bit longer than he did last time. Give me some positive fantasy points this week would be cool. But we'll see going forward.
Speaking of fantasy there for a second, correct me if I'm wrong, but Jeff Scott in his press conference today said he wasn't going to give away too much about what they did in their bye week. And then specifically mentioned that, we'll probably see a good bit from, these he mentioned 4 quarterbacks by name, if I recall correctly. And let me, I'm going to.
And not one of them.
He mentioned walk-on Ryan Bullock over Jordan Smith. And let me tell you something, folks.
Cardinal Mooney product. It's in the next level viewing area.
It just couldn't give me just a slight glimmer of hope.
Absolutely not.
He also said he didn't want to give away any secrets, So
that's true. We could get a secret play here. I mean, at this point with all the damn injuries, I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan has to step in a few times here and there. But yeah, Jeff Scott's press conference today wasn't bad, wasn't good either. I think it's much of the same of a guy that's just clamoring for life at this point. Is just they put him up there and guys got to say stuff and he says some stuff and some people take it one way and some people take it the other way, and how'd he do? But yeah, I mean, this is all segueing into, I think we're going to see extensively some good Byron Brown play within the next 5 games. They have that 4-game threshold for his red shirt. He kind of just said it. And the only good thing about all these injuries is, hey, all these young guys that we heard all good things about during the recruiting trail. Hey, here comes your Division I wake up call and get you into some games here because they're kind of needed at this point.
Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't get him some reps. I mean, 4 you can play in 4, so get him in 4, and then if you play him this week and he does well, play him. Like, if you're a really good quarterback, you're not going to be around for 4 years anyway. So if he looks like he's going to be a really good quarterback, play him.
Exactly.
I mean, they can still go to a bowl game technically.
There you
go. Maybe they're playing for that because the bowl game counts as a game of eligibility. So really, there's possibly 6 games left on this schedule, right?
Are you saying there's a chance we can go back to the Birmingham Bowl?
Theoretically,
would they have us?
You get that rematch against Florida, maybe.
Yeah, give it back. Bring us back, baby.
Right. So a lot of injuries. Jeff Scott mentioned in his press conference on Tuesday they should be getting some guys back. A little too early to tell for some. I think getting Kelly Joyner kind of back, as you mentioned, Seth, he was kind of thrust into it a little bit. First, live action hit, he fumbles, and then you don't really see him again. I think he would be a nice welcome addition. I don't even know what to do with Jaron Mangum. I was looking at the depth chart. He's technically 4th on the depth chart. They've changed some things around. Like, Gary's not on the depth chart anymore. So they are updating and cleaning that up a little bit. I don't know if that means he's almost back, so they're just putting him in there, or he's legitimately just 4th on the depth chart now. That's one that's a little confusing me. That's been a little ambiguous. I think he'd be a nice addition, especially now that Gary's gone. We've talked about this season how Brian T was kind of the outside guy, what Timmy McClain was last year. Jaron Mangum was the north-south in between the tackles. Gary had taken over that role, so it was kind of redundant. like to see him kind of slot back into that. And now you've got some options there. They ran with a couple of, 2 running back sets a couple of times over the last few weeks. Love to see that. Just make it a little bit easier for Trey Marsh. Another thing that may help out Trey Marsh a little bit, maybe some production from the tight end room. If it's receiving or blocking, that has been a suboptimal group this season. I think just the blocking, that I thought that would be the best part of this tight end room. It's not being great. I think I posted in our Slack a couple of weeks ago. It was a nice little catch to Xavier Weaver. Gunnar Greenwald literally got blown off his block. It was a practice rep, got blown off his block, blew up the play. But it was about Xavier Weaver. Just Gunnar was in the background, just getting blown up. So that's the tough part. As we head into the back half of the season, is there any glimmer that you guys are taking from this season so far? What's, I know it's going to be a stretch, maybe some mental gymnastics for you guys. What's been the most surprising thing in a good way for USF as we head toward the last half? As Jeff Scott said, maybe only like 32 days left in the season.
Surprising and positive. I mean, it wasn't super surprising, but I think the performance of the offense and Trickett's, I think the scheme he's brought in, his planning, the game against Florida where they kind of busted this stuff out for the first time, where it really looked like they were kind of sitting on it the first couple of games. I thought that was surprising in a good way. It was kind of shocking. I think Florida was shocked. They had no clue that was coming, and it gave them some problems. But that's been, I think, the most pleasant surprise, is especially a guy that wasn't calling plays previously to come in and kind of hit the ground running pretty much after, game really one and a half. Since then, the offense has been pretty good. That's not been the issue outside of the Louisville game, which was an injury-filled nightmare. So,
right. Steve, what about yourself? Anything that's, been pleasantly surprising for you?
Yeah, so the two statistics that not just statistics, but the two metrics that I kind of put on my stamp for this season at the beginning of the year, back in February, was passing touchdowns, and then what I consider to be havoc plays on defense. Those two statistics last year for USF were literally the worst in the country. I think we were worse than the service academies at passing touchdowns, which isn't good. And then we were, I think, tied last in statistics like sacks and tackles for loss, with like Vanderbilt and, some not so great programs. So I really kind of looked at those two things this year, knowing foresight and hindsight always, is a great thing. Knowing that this year was going to be a tough year for USF, didn't really know how tough it would be, but I kind of looked at those things rather than I was going to look at wins and losses, because we were probably going to lose most of our games anyways. Let me just try to find our glimmer of hope. So we've already surpassed last year's season total when it comes to passing touchdowns, which was fantastic to get that done. And, basically halfway through the season, statistically, that kind of puts you up for success. And then same thing on the back end, defensively. I know we can all talk ad nauseum about how bad the defense is this year, giving up points, giving up yards. They're still getting sacks. They're still getting tackles for loss. They're still getting, turnovers when applicable at a much more efficient rate than they were last year. Again, we're not like top 25 in the country. We're at just below average at it, which was something that we kind of looked for this year as far as progress. So I'd say that those two things are what I'm kind of saying is like, hey, that's not so bad. Jason Vaughn, I think, is the prime example of it. Like a guy that just has exploded these last couple of games, has, 3 straight games with a sack. I think he's up to 5 on the year.
Yep.
He might very well surpass the season total in sacks for the entire defense last year by himself.
It is possible.
There's good things that are happening throughout all this bad stuff.
The defense improved, but worse.
Somehow, I joked about it because it was like, if USF can do these 3 things, if they can get more sacks, if they can get more tackles for loss, and if they can get more turnovers, they're probably going to be better. Like that, I did so much research on like how to improve a defense from year 1 to year 2. It was like create more havoc plays, do this, do that, and somehow they're worse, even though they're better at the havoc plays.
So you're to blame.
It's only something USF could do. There was in the game notes as I was kind of prepping for tonight. They've already surpassed last year's totals. They've surpassed 2020's totals. They're maybe on pace for 2019. I think they had like 94 tackles for loss, 29 sacks. And that 2019 defense wasn't great either. So you're just trying to get back to, I guess, baseline would be a fair assessment. We knew that the defensive line was going to be an issue this year. The injuries across the defensive line haven't helped. I think for me, the surprising good thing is, within all the injuries, we found out Brian Petit is that guy, and he is your bell cow. He is your best running back on the roster, and it's probably not close. That was a nice thing to find out. I think Seth, I think you and I were kind of in the Brian Petit hive for quite a while. Yes. It was nice to finally see that unleashed. I think he's first in the conference or near first in yards per game, like total yards per game. I think he's like fourth in the conference in rushing yards per game at around 70. Game script kind of dictates how that goes. If USF's down big and they've been down big a lot, they have to go away from the run. But in those close games, you're seeing him get 15, 18, 24 carries in a game, and he's kind of turned into the bell cow, even at 5'8", 5'9", 170 pounds, sopping wet. He's been the pleasant surprise for me.
Yeah, and you can't. It's hard to replicate his kind of explosiveness. We saw last year on kick returns, and you kind of have seen flashes of it. Given when he's gotten carries, and it has that. That's another great one. Being able to see him kind of get more consistent carries, because that is like when you do running back by committee, you don't really get that. You don't get to see these guys get extended carries, get lathered up a little bit, and see how they do when they get extended looks. So that has been kind of the blessing in disguise of most of the injuries. But that's a really good one.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, the entire season's been disappointing, so I don't think we can understate that as more than we already have. But you knew Jimmy Horn and you knew Xavier Weaver were going to get their stats. You knew they were going to put up numbers all season long. I guess the disappointing part for me is there hasn't been another receiver to really put their stamp on this season. Brian Petit is the third leading receiver. He has 9 catches for 35 yards. Marion Dawson has 7 catches. Yusuf Terry has 6. Sean Atkins has 4. Sean Atkins and Daquan Stanley are the only 2 guys who have receiving touchdowns outside of Weaver and Horn. It's like you bring all this talent in, and they've done literally nothing.
In terms of yardage, Daquan Stanley is 4th on the team with 1 catch for 73 yards.
Efficiency, baby. That's all that is.
He's got a great average. Dare I say he's leading the country in yards per catch. That's been the frustrating part. You bring in a Joe, you bring in Joffrey Brown, you bring over Daquan Stanley from DB to wide receiver. Yusuf Terry is supposed to get a larger role in the offense. Marion Dawson's been another year. We loved him as a gunner on special teams. We thought it would translate, and it's just been a complete and utter dud from that entire room, and that's been the most disappointing thing for me. It just, how has no one else stepped up? Well, I think that room is kind of a small look at the entire team. How many of those guys have had nagging injuries? Who did you think was going to be the guy? A Joe was the pedigree, and then he's been hurt pretty much the entire season. Yusuf Terry's had injuries. Joffrey Brown's had injuries. Like I think in the Louisville game, they were down their top 4 receivers. So that room's kind of been a smaller version of the team in terms of, the guys you were hoping would step up, kind of really improve, defensively, like outside of Boyles. You're kind of waiting for somebody to step up, and you'd have a guy step up like DJ Gordon, then he gets hurt. And so it's kind of like a microcosm. The receiver room is kind of a microcosm of the team, where you're looking for those guys to step up, those new guys, and they look like they're about to, and they get hurt. Or they can't quite put it together because play 1 week, out the next, play the next week. And then you have guys like a JoJo where they're just done for the year. So I think that's been part of it too. And that's probably a big theme on this season when you look back at it, is all the injury stuff too.
What about yourself? What's been, outside of the obvious, what's been kind of the more disappointing thing that you thought maybe they should have been better or you were hoping for better?
I thought the defensive back room was a little bit deeper. And now it's getting that's kind of unfair to say, really, because that depth is really getting tested. But there are guys that they've recruited a few classes back that are junior, that, not COVID juniors, but are, in their third year in the program, that were kind of local guys that seem to be pretty big wins in recruiting that haven't got a ton of play. There are guys like, from that played pretty well as freshmen when they came in and haven't got a ton. So I think that's been disappointing, because I thought that even with the kind of medical retirement right before the season, Smoke Davis, I thought that group had some depth, and now, they've been hurt a lot. So we're getting to see that depth, but it's not quite ready to play how they want to play, it seems like. And so they're having issues. Now, what's funny is like the pass defense numbers are pretty decent, but it's kind of a syndrome of other things, right? Like, if you can run the ball, nobody needs to throw it.
Exactly. It's like, why throw the ball when I can get almost a point per rush, or a little 0.4 points per rush? That's the echo rate rushing. It's been tough. I just don't. Yeah, I agree. Steeg, what about yourself? Is there anything that's kind of been glaring for you?
You just, pick your poison. Really, it's kind of the whole gambit of it all. I mean, it seems like it's not only just the on the field product, it's the off the field stuff as well. I think that there's, above all else, there's a lot of hostility and negativity that's kind of rolling around and riding around. And, from thankfully we haven't seen much of it on the field necessarily, but, just going off of what I see on the week to week, on the day to day, on Twitter, on social media and everything like that, it's, ultimately that's the most disappointing thing to me. And I know that's going to be stupid cop out Steeg here. But like football, being a football fan should be fun. And rooting for a 1-6 football team sucks. Rooting for a team that, either gets blown out or can't hold a lead, save their life sucks. It's not fun. But at the same time, the negativity and hostility towards, the social media admins, the coaches, like, I sat there in the Tulane game and, people around me were like, fuck you, Bob Shoop. You can't coach a defense out of an ass or anything. It's like, come on, like, don't do that shit. Like, be frustrated, but like, don't be dicks to each other. Really, it's not that difficult. I don't know. That's disappointing to me. But that's just more of Steeg's empathy kind of riding high. And, whenever I see they post the uniform reveal and like 6 of the 7 replies are just win a fucking game, you idiots. It's like, let them fucking post shit on social media.
Let me tell you, I don't think you want any of those social media admins playing in those games. And the admins, I think outside of probably one guy I have a pretty decent relationship with. I love Brian. It's a love-hate relationship with him. Dave's great. The guys who we interact with, on a semi-daily basis, I love them, but you don't want them out there either. So like the the vitriol toward the admins. I promise you, Jeff Scott's not seeing that stuff. Trickett's not seeing it. You know who are seeing it? Recruits. So what does that really do for you? Voice your displeasure. That's fine, but you want to know why people leave jobs is because it's the environment that it is, and the sports environment has been insane the last couple of years. It's one of the more stressful jobs that don't require like life-saving operations or like going to war. Right now, it's if you don't have a good social media presence, you get killed for it. If you have a good one and something goes south, you get killed for it, and it's a tough beat. Steeg, I mean, you've got pretty close friends who run social media accounts for pretty large organizations, and I'm sure they've told you horror stories of what they've had to encounter in their DMs and in comments. It's not the admin's fault the team's bad.
Right. And like I saw like this past weekend with ECU social media this weekend, someone was like, ECU has better, a better social media presence than USF. It's like, well, yeah, their team's winning. So that definitely helps.
It'll help.
Like that's help number one. But the second thing is like they have like loyal, dedicated fans. Like when ECU was fucking terrible, like they were still like, selling out Greenville pretty well because it's nothing else to do in Greenville at that point. But like, it's because you kind of nourish that environment, really. I mean, it is quite literally a product of the environment of what happens around them. And so obviously when negativity kind of leaks in, when you're, 5 straight years of being bad, the negativity kind of continues to leak in on kind of all fronts. So really, I mean, the leak needs to stop somewhere. And the easiest, quickest way for that leak to stop is to fold the football program, shut it down for 2 years, upset a lot of people, and then bring it back to life, and then build a new stadium to kind of, put some positivity back into the program. And oh shit, I'm describing what happened to UAB, didn't I?
Well, do you guys want to see some advanced stats for this next week?
Oh man, I can't wait.
Let's talk about the upcoming game here. I got a couple different ones here. So we got Parker's stats here. Our guy's stats of war. So the rushing offense for USF is quite good, and you'll see I have there's another advanced stats preview that shows that. Defensively, not very good for USF here. Red is good. Or I'm sorry, red is bad. Blue is good. Red is let me repeat. Red is bad.
That means you're on fire, right?
Red is
blue
bad.
Is like you're ice cold.
No. Red is bad. Blue is good. So
dark red means you must be really, 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 really bad.
Dark red is poor, yes. Not
doing
very well.
EPA per rush, 131st in the country defensively. That's not great. How many teams are in FBS?
131.
Oh, that's not great.
So 0.346 points. So over a third of a point every time they run the ball. So 3 runs is worth 1 point per play. On a expected points basis. So again, that's not great.
It's a shame, or it's God's mystery and wonder how bad the team was, or how bad the defense was last year. It somehow managed to get worse. It's actually incredible. It's quite literally a statistical anomaly at this rate.
Yeah. So you can see offense is kind of some stuff they do well, like run the ball pretty well. Passing has not been great. Probably the turnovers are kind of coupled in there, especially the early season interception stuff. Not been great on early downs, so first and second down. First and early downs EPA, 91st. Equal rate, that's quality drive, like rate. How many quality possessions do you have? So 46% of their possessions are quality, not great. But you see, Houston allows a lot of quality possessions. So
something's got to give, right?
Yes. Now, Parker does not, when he makes these up and makes projections of like projected points, he does not factor injuries into this. This is simply backward looking, I believe, at the numbers. So
correct.
take that. Take this projection with a grain of salt a little bit due to the injuries, but this is kind of just a quick look. And then I found another one recently that's pretty fun. Let's see if I can just tab over to it. No, I cannot. I'll have to share it. The Game on Paper is another good one, right?
Oh yeah.
Game on Paper is a newer one. I haven't seen this until the last couple of weeks, but I really like it. It gives you kind of a little bit up top here. So success rate is down to down success. So, for example, gaining 3 yards on 3rd and 7 would be unsuccessful.
Right.
Or really, let's say gaining 6 yards on 3rd and 7 is unsuccessful because you didn't get a first down. Gaining 2 yards on 3rd and 1 would be successful, right? So this is kind of a down to down. How good are you or bad are you? So you see, these are all net success rates, I believe. So Houston's actually pretty decent down to down. They've, I think, maybe been a little unlucky. USF has not been great down to down, but they're about middle of the road, really. But not the defensively is where it kind of goes to crap. But you see the rushing stats here.
You're really teasing this bottom half here.
I know. I can't wait to see it.
The rushing stats
it's
are
like a
pretty.
strip
The rushing
show.
stats are pretty good there. I mean, 10th in total EPA, 5th in EPA per play, 7th in EPA per game, 17th in rushing success rate. So that's a little bit different than what Parker had there. But defensively, and here green is good, purple is bad. So,
Man,
yeah,
Hold on.
that's a deep purple. There should be a band called Deep Purple.
yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that against the pass is quite shocking. I will like that has to be a massive statistical anomaly.
Well, look at the success rate.
Like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, they're terrible. Like, success rate is terrible, but yet, like,
I would venture that maybe they don't give up a ton of explosives in the past game.
right? It's just kind of give up
But, I
chunks,
mean,
right?
I don't know. When you go back to ECU, that doesn't seem to track, right? So
Right.
I'm not quite sure what I'm not well versed enough to know kind of what the dissonance is there between them being really poor in success rate and kind of pretty decent and expected points. Because expected points is like a success rate, but also where you are in the field. It kind of factors all that in. Could be that, making interceptions and things like that on the goal line are probably pretty valuable in terms of expected points. So
Right.
that play against Florida is probably a pretty big one. So some of those turnovers may have kind of influenced that a little bit, but on a down to down basis, pretty bad. And you see overall 123rd in the country. So not great. Houston's offense isn't exactly lighting the world on fire, but they're decent. So they're above average, right? So I would expect them to have a lot of success offensively. USF on the other side of the ball, maybe be able to run the ball, and they might commit a little bit more to it with a backup quarterback. So these are both. Parker is Stats War on Twitter. This is Game on Paper. Both are really cool resources. So if you like those, check those out. But
So
give you
that
kind of
just
a
looked
good
like
idea.
a really fancy way to say we're going to be 1-7 and potentially staring at 1-11 down the barrel.
I don't know about 1-11, but I think 1-7 is definitely in play. Oh, finally.
I've been waiting for that. I mean, private dating chat girls, sign me up.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I was gonna. I mean, you and I are probably in two brain cells right now when we're probably gonna say it. But like, yeah, I mean, there's no way to statistically, make this look any worse than or any better than what it is.
Yeah.
It's just that's the nature of we kind of say it every week. You are who you are until you're not, and then we're kind of that bad team that's continuously being bad.
Yeah. And it's become a thing with Jeff Scott. I mean, 12-23 FBS games. He's been down by 10 or more points after the first quarter. They haven't won a road game in tomorrow. So October 26th, 2019. It was at ECU, which I believe it was one of our watch parties, if I'm not mistaken. I think that game was a watch party at the Beef O'Brady's in South Tampa.
Yes.
I think it was like a 45-20 game. I think there was a kickoff return at the beginning of the game, and we were like, "Oh my god, this is not great." But it turned into the Jaquez Evans show.
They ran the ball down their throat.
They did. That was the last game USF has won on the road. I think it's a span of 15 games. I don't expect that to happen to change anytime soon. I mean, by all accounts, Jeff Scott's just not the guy. If we want to be completely candid here, he really kind of talked up, during his press conference this week that, the last 5 games are really can really be the story of the season if we make it so. And God bless him for his internal optimism, but my brother in Christ, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it this week for sure, but who knows, right? Stranger things have happened.
I think I can quickly address the MJW's question there. Will actually have any healthy defensive tackles this week. I'm going to read the names of the 4 players that are listed as defensive tackles on USF's current active roster. If any of these names sound familiar, please speak up or forever hold your peace. DeJuan
Cease.
Walk on that got a scholarship this season, right?
Yep.
Colby Smith.
Sure.
Jabril Glaze.
Jefferson Boy.
Yep. Danny Gonzalez. Yeah, he actually just came back to USF. Not came back. He bounced around for a little bit. He literally just got added to the roster. He doesn't have a picture or anything.
Yep.
And then Danny Gonzalez.
And then you got Nick Baggs, right? I guess
so. Those guys are what are considered to be defensive linemen on the online roster, which they have changed these guys around from their positions initially. So, things get kind of shuffled and moved around. So you got guys that are moving from defensive end to defensive tackle. A guy like Rashawn Yates, who would probably historically have been a defensive tackle, is listed as a defensive end. So they definitely don't have defensive tackles right now, is what I'm saying here. They really, honest to God, do not have the size defensive tackles that you would normally want. A guy that's close to 300. Able to push some bodies around. The defensive ends are probably between 220 and 260 pounds. So you're looking at almost a 400 pound or 40 pound difference between what a defensive tackle should be and what we're lining up right now. So they're having to, they're really having to kind of stretch guys and get creative with Shoop's defense and the blitzes that they're giving. That's the unfortunate nature of just a culmination of problems that have plagued this program for the last couple of years. That you have 4 defensive tackles and none of them are scholarship players.
Yep. You know what? I think let's just go to predictions here.
Yeah,
let's wrap it up. USF at Houston, ESPN2. It's a nooner. It'll get you out of the way. You can get prepped for your Halloween parties. You can get prepped for your if you want to go to the pumpkin patch in the afternoon. The weather should be delightful. Oh God.
really just rip off the Band-Aid here.
Yeah. Houston's favored by 17.5. Steeg, let's go with you. You picked Tulane. You picked the Tulane game. You picked USF to win 35-31 like an idiot. What say you this week?
Like the big fucking idiot I am. Now, last night I had said that they might backdoor cover, just because Houston isn't exactly just sans a game or two, they're not like absolutely just blowing doors off people.
Mhm.
The discipline is also the big thing that I've been, jumping out to me in Houston. So, last night I was like, yeah, maybe they'll backdoor cover. And then I sat here and looked at like statistics, and then I looked at Jeff Scott's record, and I looked at how Jeff Scott starts football games, and then I looked at how Jeff Scott ends football games, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop being a fucking idiot. Realistically, like, down your starting quarterback, you're down most of your defense. Sure, you might get a few guys back and healthy here, but like, fuck, man, you haven't shown a sign of life outside of 5 minutes of the Howard game, and you kind of backed your ass into a bad situation at Tulane. So let's really just put the nail in the coffin. Scott and Holman podcast. Beat the doors off of us. Beat us like 63-10. Make me feel bad about myself. Just make me feel bad.
63-10 Houston. Okay. Good Lord. Seth.
Yeah. I'm going to say my previous week was pretty close. I was on it there for a minute.
Yeah. So you picked Tulane to win 38-24. So you were off by what, 14 points overall?
Yeah. But the margin was correct.
Correct.
So here's what I'm thinking. I'm not going to go 63-10. I think I wouldn't say it's out of the realm of possibility, but I'm not going to go quite. I'm not going to go quite that high. I think I'm gonna stick at about let's go like 41-20, 41-17. Let's go 41-20.
41-20.
Houston victorious. If I didn't.
So that's a win and a cover. So I picked Tulane to win 45-24. So I was pretty damn close.
So
I was a touchdown off on the USF side, and I think they would have got it if Gary had stayed healthy. Houston hasn't allowed fewer than 20 points in a game this season. Their defense has given up an average of a little over 31 points per game. With Gary, I think they probably put up that 31 number. With Trey, I think it's closer to that 25-ish number. But I'm going to go Houston. As I said at the top, Houston scored at least 50-plus points versus USF in 3 consecutive years. They're going to make it 4. They're going to make it a clean sweep 4. It's going to be 55-23, and then there's going to be a serious conversation about Jeff Scott's future on Sunday. That's my prediction.
So you think Steeg is within the realm of possibility here?
Yeah, I think the offense shows up a little bit more than he does, but they're putting up video game numbers against this team.
Yeah, who's guarding Tank Dell? He's too small though.
He is too small.
Maybe he won't be able to play.
Yeah,
because he's too small.
I was so disappointed that no one asked about Tank Dell and how there's some people on Jeff Scott's staff who are still on staff that said he was too small. But other than that,
so maybe he won't play because he's too small.
Yeah,
that'd be helpful.
That would be helpful. But yeah, there you have it. Steve picks 63-10 Houston. Seth 41-20 Houston. Nathan 55-23 Houston. I think Seth and I think we are 7-0 picking these games straight up. So that was, it's been pretty easy if we're being honest. It's
I think if you go back to 2020, our numbers are pretty good straight up. We're pretty good
straight up against this Bulls team. But there's no money. There's no money in picking the favorites. That's the unfortunate part. We've made like $4.
One thing I do want to say that just bugs me a little bit. The comment about being underdogs, double-digit underdogs, right? They don't announce all the spreads before the season. They're not static. They change as the season goes.
Right.
So if you're consistently a double-digit underdog, That's always because the other team is awesome.
Yeah,
sometimes it's because you're not very good.
Right.
That's just, it's one thing week 1. Yeah. Okay. Week 6, week 7,
you're still
to teams that aren't great. That people power rate these things and teams move up. Like Alabama probably wasn't a 7-point underdog to Alabama Tennessee wasn't a 7-point underdog to Alabama in the offseason. That's probably a little bit higher, but Tennessee was really good. So
that sounds like a bunch
the
of
spread
hosing.
Shrinks. So that one was just like injuries. All right, maybe that's legit, but like the point spread thing, like you can impact that a little bit.
I mean, just a little bit, just a hair. I'm sure, Kansas would have been, double-digit underdogs in a lot of these games if they had just played it out without seeing them actually play. Yet here we are. They were an
8-point underdog to Baylor last week. What was that in the preseason? 20 points?
Things change. That's so weird. You show some competency, and you know what? Vegas doesn't like to lose money, so they change the lines accordingly.
Yeah. That's one that just stuck in my craw a little bit.
Yeah, I hear you. So we'll be set. We'll discuss off air, but I would say maybe we do the pregame, halftime, postgame. I mean, we'll see.
At least the pregame show.
Yeah, we'll see how our Saturday takes us. But again, check it out or don't. It's purely up to you if you want to have a fun Saturday. ESPN2 noon o'clock, 11 a.m. Central for you folks traveling out to Houston. For Nathan, for Seth, for Steeg, thanks for tuning in to another edition of the Bulluminati Podcast. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
Oh.